Hey, what's going on, guys? The Horror Man back putting a positive spin on the Straw Dogs remake. Straw Dogs is the 2011 remake of the original 1971 Straw Dogs. Earlier this week, Jason and I covered the original for Controversial View. And earlier this year, I included this remake in my Top 3 Thursday for favorite horror remakes. After rewatching it once again for this positive spin, I strongly stand by that choice. Straw Dogs is absolutely one of my favorite horror remakes of all time. This movie currently has a 5.8 out of 10 rating on IMDb. That makes it one of the highest rated positive spins we've ever done. It's not so much that Straw Dogs is hated, it's just neglected. No one ever talks about this remake. And not only is it neglected and underseen, it's highly underrated, in my opinion. With it being one of my all-time favorite horror remakes, I definitely prefer it to the original. So, with all that in mind, this will be a different kind of positive spin. I'll simply share with you some reasons why I prefer this remake to the original. First of all, I love how true this 2011 version is to the 1971 version. There are, of course, some differences to make it its own. For example, instead of being set in England, this remake is set in the deep south of the US. The ending is different as well, and I prefer the changed ending. And one of the most noticeable differences for me is the pacing. This remake, despite being only 8 minutes shorter, is much faster paced. While we were watching it, Jason even said, it just flows better. I love the cast in Straw Dogs 2011. It stars James Marsden as David, taking over the role from Dustin Hoffman in the original. Kate Bosworth is in Susan George's role as Amy. I truly feel those two leads as a married couple have better chemistry. This version of David and Amy seem much more suited for each other. It's believable for James and Kate to be together. They are both so much more likable, too. Susan George's portrayal of Amy in the original is very unlikable. She's naggy and needy and moody all the time. And controversially, I will say, she does seem to bring on everything that happens to them. Meanwhile, Kate Bosworth as Amy in this remake is much more realistic, I think. Sure, she does some annoying things, but it's usually out of anger or trauma. It's also a lot easier to root for James Marsden's portrayal of David, as opposed to Dustin Hoffman's. Marsden's version of the character makes for a more satisfying conclusion. Seeing him go from a non-confrontational, regular guy to a complete badass in the climax is awesome. Alexander Skarsgård is an imposing villain as Charlie. Dominic Purcell takes over David Warner's role from the original, and I like how they better handle his character in this remake. I'm a huge fan of James Woods, and he's in this, so that's a positive. I'm also a huge fan of Walton Goggins, and he's also in this remake, so that's another positive. I love the Deep South setting and the house where David and Amy live. And because this is an Americanized remake, we get the inclusion of football, an American pastime, and a favorite of mine. The controversial sequence of the original film is, of course, remade in this, although they don't lay the controversy on as thick. And by that, I mean Kate Bosworth's portrayal of Amy doesn't seem to enjoy that first assault nearly as much as Susan George's character. It's very, very subtle in this remake, if at all. That's more fitting, since this variation of David and Amy do seem to be a happily married couple. David and Amy in the original didn't really seem to be in love. And then there's, of course, that satisfying climax I already mentioned. David defends his house and his wife like the man Amy wanted him to be the entire time. It's satisfying seeing Dustin Hoffman do it in the 1971 original, but there is a certain scene that dilutes it in that version. That scene is left out of this remake, and I'm glad. James Marsden's David comes across as more heroic because of that exclusion. I could say a lot more about the Straw Dogs remake because I love it, but I'll end it here. It definitely is one of my favorite horror remakes, although I know most won't agree. But you don't have to. This is just my positive spin. Please be sure to check out Jason's as well. Have you seen the Straw Dogs remake? If so, what do you think of it? Comment below and let me know. To which hated movie will we next give a positive spin? Check back soon to find out. Until then, remember, physical media matters. Thanks for watching, guys. Hit that thumbs up and be kind. Subscribe.